Today on The Big Story, the latest on the Wuhan virus as it continues to spread and the death toll rises. Find out what China is doing to combat this new SARS-like disease. In a bid to encourage children to pursue their interests, the Education Ministry is looking at removing selection trials for CCAs in a pilot study. Don't be surprised if you receive a QR code instead of cash in your hongbaos this CNY E-hongbao is seeing a rise here during the festive period. It's Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. here in Singapore. You're watching The Big Story, where we will discuss the hottest topics of the day and explain why they matter. I'm Haryanto Diman, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention revealed today that the Wuhan virus is weaker than SARS. Chinese scientists also found out that the new virus may be linked to fruit bats. Authorities believe the virus originated from the wild animals sold at a seafood market in Wuhan. The fear is that the new virus strain is still adapting and mutating. The Wuhan virus has sickened over 400 people across China and led to 9 deaths. Cases of the virus have also been detected in the US, Japan, Thailand, and South Korea. We have China Bureau Chief Tan Dong-wei, who is in Beijing right now, live on Skype to tell us more. Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
Hi, Dawn. I understand that you were at the press conference this morning. Could you tell us, what's your biggest takeaway from today's briefing from Chinese health authorities?
I think the 3 key points from this morning's briefing is that, number one, this outbreak will continue to grow and the disease will continue to spread as hundreds of millions of Chinese travel home for the Chinese New Year today, tomorrow, and the day after. Second, the virus is adapting and it is mutating. So while it previously couldn't be transmitted through human contact, it now can. And as it adapts and mutates and evolves, it becomes stronger. And that brings us to the third point, which is the worry that a super spreader will emerge. The WHO, the World Health Organization, classifies a super spreader as a highly infectious person who can infect 10 or more people. So, if you have a super spreader in the midst, then, that's the great worry. But the health officials today also said that there is no evidence that a super spreader has emerged. And they were also asked if it was possible that the number of people infected could be in the thousands, as predicted by University of Hong Kong and Imperial College London through modeling. And the answer was no, that does not, that wasn't what they're seeing on the ground.
And Dawn, having said that, what measures are authorities putting in place now to combat the spread of this virus?
I think given the lessons of SARS, China has developed a prevention and control mechanism for infectious diseases. Wuhan, which is ground zero, is on high alert. Its mayor has appealed for Wuhan residents to stay put and for everyone else not to go to Wuhan unless absolutely necessary. And then there are also fever screenings at all the major transport hubs, at the airports, the railway stations, coach stations, the piers. And cars are also subjected to checks in and out of Wuhan to see if they're carrying livestock. All wildlife trading is banned in Wuhan, and restaurants are also not allowed to serve them as well because it is believed that the virus originated from wildlife sold illegally at this market in Wuhan. They haven't quite zeroed in on which animal it is that carried the virus, but they're pretty certain that it came from an animal that was sold at that market. And it was just an assortment of animals that were sold there, from birds to snakes to beavers. So they are racing to see if they can trace this. China has also launched a big hygiene campaign nationwide,
Right.
encouraging people to wear face masks, to wash their hands regularly, to avoid going to crowded places.
Yeah.
And we were also told that all frontline medical staff have been made to cancel their Chinese New Year plans and to stand by. And hospitals have set up pre-screening triages, and suspected cases
Right.
would go straight to a fever clinic instead of going through A&E or the outpatient clinic. So China has classified this pneumonia as class B of
Yeah.
infectious diseases, which includes SARS, but it is going about tackling it as a class A disease instead. So the preventive steps are really for most severe cases like the plague and cholera, and that means there is more stringent reporting that needs to be done nationwide and also greater resources at the disposal as well.
Right. Now, Dawn, of course, you mentioned with regard to the Lunar New Year celebration is, of course, is around the corner. And we spoke about this just earlier as well. What is the sentiments on the ground, seeing that the celebration is just a few days away? How is the mood like? Has it dampened the spirit of the celebration?
I think it has definitely put people on high alert. Previously, before the authorities confirmed that this virus could be transmitted from human to human, people were still sort of relaxed about it. But then since that news came out, I think it was Monday,
Yeah.
people have gotten a little bit worried. So like all of a sudden, you see people started wearing face masks and canceling plans to meet up with their friends. And we spoke to one guy who works in Beijing, but whose parents are in Wuhan. And as with many families in China, he is the only child, is a single child, and he had bought an air ticket to go home
Right.
for tomorrow. But earlier today he was made to cancel it because his parents insisted that he didn't come home for Chinese New Year because they were worried about his safety. And he told us that he, is worried for their safety as well. And he
Yeah.
told them, please just stay at home, don't go out, don't go to crowded places, and they will just have to speak on the phone on Friday nights, instead of a
Yeah.
reunion dinner. Yeah.
Right. Well, we really hope that, of course, the measures that have been in place will curb the spread of the virus. Of course, Dawn, do stay safe while in Beijing, and we understand as well that you're coming back to
Yeah.
Singapore on Friday. Have a safe trip here as well.
Thank
Now,
you.
of course, while there have been no confirmed cases in Singapore, the Ministry of Health has stepped up precautions against the Wuhan virus. Ground zero will be at the National Centre for Infectious Diseases. The Straits Times got an exclusive look at how they have prepared for the worst.
This is still a very, very new virus. We know that it is one of the coronavirus that is within the coronavirus family. So, very likely the transmissions will be very similar to many of the other coronavirus, where we have to take care of droplet transmissions, maybe sometimes airborne transmissions, as well as contact transmission. Patients will go through a clinical assessment as well as laboratory assessment. The purpose is for us to identify whether or not it is due to the novel coronavirus, or it could be due to any other very common viruses in circulations that can give rise to acute respiratory illness. Avoid crowded area, and if you need to step out of your house, good to put on a surgical mask, wash hands very frequently, do good hand hygiene, as well as to always update their vaccinations, for example, influenza vaccinations. If they need to travel, pay specific attentions to the area that they will be traveling, and of course avoid some of the at-risk area, for example, very crowded area, or the market area, or potentially come into contact with live animal or poultry markets.
Stay up to date with the latest on the Wuhan virus on straitstimes.com. Now moving on to our second segment, focus less on performance and allow students to pursue their interests. This is the aim of the Ministry of Education, or MOE's, latest move to drop selection trials for co-curricular activities, or better known as CCAs. In the pilot study, selected primary schools will cut down on the number of CCAs offered but guarantee pupils entry into the CCA of their choice. This has long been a bugbear for parents and students due to limited places. Some schools, like Clementi Primary School, have already adopted the no-trial model for the school's 19 CCAs. To promote sports, the MOE will also begin improving infrastructure in schools in phases, expected to be completed by 2024. We have journalist Kimberly Quek to tell us more. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, Haryanto.
Now, Kim, if you could tell us, why did the Education Ministry decide to do this pilot study?
Yeah, so I think it's like what you mentioned earlier. The MOE has been taking several initiatives to encourage students to pursue their interests, and also they are trying to place less of an emphasis on high performance.
Right.
So this is just the latest move by MOE to do so. Yeah.
Okay, and how has the response to the announcement been so far?
Yeah, I think it's been great so far. I think a lot of people think, this is the move in the right direction, because they feel like maybe children of that age from, 9 to 11 years old should be allowed to enjoy what they're doing rather than, focusing on producing just results and things like that. Yeah, so, students, parents, teachers are all pretty supportive of this move. And I think some of the people I spoke to raised some pretty relevant points. Like, some of them said that, if students are actually doing things that they enjoy, then they're more likely to put in more effort. And also, maybe having selection trials might not be the best way to evaluate their abilities, because, they're trying out for things that are new. So, yeah, maybe removing selection trials would be good for them to just try some things out, and, they never know whether they would actually be good at it.
Or develop a certain skill to it. I mean, at the end of the day, children, they could be late bloomers as well,
right?
That's right, yeah. And, but that said, right, Kim, of course, without these selection trials, will the school be able to cope, say, in the instance where there is a possibility of oversubscription to a certain popular CCAs? Yeah,
so I think that's a valid concern. Yeah, and that is definitely something that MOE will have to look into when they start this pilot study. So, one of the schools, Clementi Primary School, already has sort of this no CCA trial model. Yeah. And, when I spoke to one of the teachers from that school yesterday, he did mention that, some of the CCAs have quite high subscription rates. So what they do is they actually give students 3 options.
Okay.
So you can put down 3 CCAs that you would like to join, and some of the more popular CCAs sometimes cannot take in that many students. So as much as they try to accommodate students' requests, sometimes they have to look like maybe place them in other CCAs, but also at the same time make sure that these CCAs are ones that students also sort of have an interest in as well. So I think that's one approach that maybe schools and MOE can look into.
But I guess at the end of the day, of course, this is still a pilot study. And this is the time to kind of assess and see how this mechanism could work for the schools. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for coming on to share with us more on this. Now, to read more on this pilot study, you can check it out on our website, straitstimes.com. And now let's move on to What's Trending, where Dylan will share with us what's buzzing in the internetverse. Over to you, Dylan.
Thanks, Haryanto. It's time for What's Trending. First up, just like how Oasis famously sang "Don't Look Back in Anger," it seems like there aren't any hard feelings between Jennifer Aniston and ex-husband Brad Pitt. The two reunited backstage at the Screen Actors Guild Awards 15 years after they announced their high-profile divorce. The internet erupted with reactions both good and bad, especially zooming in on the moment he held onto her wrist. Are you rooting for a reunion? What do you think? Tell us in the comments. Now moving on, police have arrested a 30-year-old maid for hurting a 16-month-old toddler under her care. In a 46-second long Facebook clip uploaded by Miss Amy Low, the CCTV footage shows the maid dipping her baby girl's left hand into a pot on the stove repeatedly. How cruel. Now, Miss Low said that the maid had initially claimed that it was an accident and that the toddler had accidentally touched the hot cooking pot. Police are investigating the incident as voluntarily causing hurt by dangerous means. And finally, thinking of having a steamboat for the upcoming Chinese New Year, things didn't end well for this group of friends. A happy meal turned into a nightmare for friends as the entire tempered glass tabletop shattered just 30 minutes into their steamboat session. Recounting the incident in a Facebook post, Miss Stephanie Chu said the floor was covered in blood, soup, broken crockery and food. It gets worse. Now everyone present suffered various degrees of burns and cuts. Miss Chu has said that she hopes that it serves as a warning to other tempered glass table users. I'm Zilan Ang, and that's all we have for What's Trending today. If you've seen a story you want to share, tell us on Straits Times Facebook page.
Well, thank you so much, Dylan. I am certainly not looking forward to a reunion between Brad and Jen, but hey, you know, you guys will probably have a different idea. Now, moving on to our last segment, we're just 2 days away from the Lunar New Year, and preparations for the celebration would have started in many households, including going to the banks to stock up on dollar notes for hongbaos. But don't be surprised if you get a QR code instead of cash in your red packet. Giving electronic hongbaos has gradually grown more popular in Singapore, though most people still prefer paper ones. The receivers tap on their smartphones to have their hongbao money transferred directly to their bank accounts. Still, these e-hongbaos transactions pale in comparison to the whopping 100 million new notes that the Monetary Authority of Singapore, or MAS, prints each year to meet the CNY demand. We have Deputy Tech Editor Trevor Tan to tell us more about this. Welcome, Trev.
Hi.
Now, Trev, could you explain how these e-hongbaos work? What do the givers and receivers have to do in this instance?
Actually, the receiver basically can do nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's actually like very much like electronic transfer.
Right.
So for those senders, they just need to go to the app of the bank that you have and look for the e-hongbao, because some banks will have e-hongbao now feature during this CNY period. If not, you can always use PayNow, because PayNow is basically now we can just PayNow each other.
That's quite easy,
yeah, even though you have different banks. But for those who have those e-hongbao icon, you can add greetings and input the amount that you want to give to the person and just send.
So make it a bit more personalized.
Yeah,
sense,
and so those people who have those in the same bank, they will receive it. For example, in Grab Pay, I think, there's an e-hongbao, and when you send over, you can say "Gong Xi Fa Cai," and the person who tap on it will get the money and the greeting.
Oh, that's quite nice, actually.
Yeah.
Do we have a demo of it? Because I see that you've brought in some stuff.
Okay, this is the normal hongbao.
Okay, this is the normal hongbao. Okay.
Yeah, but this is something which DBS pioneer.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, I think last year they came out with this.
Right.
So because e-transfer can be a bit impersonal.
Yeah.
All right. So this is something still tangible, but you can scan the QR code to get your money. So the sender,
so there is a QR code right here.
Yeah.
Don't know if you guys can see right now. Just a QR code right there. Okay.
Yeah. So the sender will scan the QR code using the DBS PayLah app. Yeah. So they put in the input, and then you can give it to the person.
Okay.
You can actually fold it like that. You can write the greeting here.
Yep.
And then fold it.
Right. So it's like a gift card.
Yeah, it's something like a gift card, but save on paper notes and things like that.
Okay.
And so once the person receive it, use the PayLah to scan it again, and then get the money. And then this card you can just keep on using as a bookmark or something.
And of course, you can also put the card in your traditional.
Yep, of course you can do this as well. As you can see, it fits perfectly.
There you go. Now, of course, Trev, giving hongbaos, e-hongbaos, they're popular, right? It's on the rise. But at the end of the day, people here still prefer the paper ones. Why is that?
I think because usually they give to children and elderlies, and for children, it's basically the parents who are taking care of the money. So if you give an e-hongbao, I think they don't know where to go, and I think For electronic transfer, there is a limit. Even for QR gift card, this one, I think the minimum age is 13, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. And so,
There's certain restrictions.
Yeah, and then for elderly who may not be so tech savvy,
right.
they may not have a PayNow or or maybe elderly just prefer the feel of the hard cash.
I have to say that, right? I mean, it is a novel idea, but at the end of the day, I suppose the feel of the notes and the smell of the notes, I think that's
like what my friend says. I know nothing beats counting cash. Hands, right?
Exactly. But that said, of course, e-hongbaos eventually will still be a better option.
I mean, in the long run, given climate change and we need to reduce wastage. IMF told us that around 40% of the 100 million notes that is being printed every year will be accumulated. They will try to recirculate.
Yep.
But if they can't, they will have to destroy it. Prevent inflation or things like that. But I think in Singapore there's still this cash thing going on, but in China, it's like last year, like 823 million people.
My goodness.
Gave and received e-hongbaos on WeChat alone.
Oh wow!
Yeah, imagine the amount of paper that have been saved, the trees that you have saved, and the oxygen that we can have.
So Trev, I have to ask you this year, are you going to be giving out e-hongbaos as well?
Only to people I know that are using DBS PayLah app.
I had hoped that you would say yes and I would get an e-hongbao from you as well. But in any case, of course, happy Lunar to you. Lunar New Year to everyone. As well. Yeah. Well, to read more on the e-hongbao story, you can check it out on the Straits Times website. There we have it, our top stories for today. For more news and videos, do log on to straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Hariyanto. See you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.